So to start us off, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are running for this position?
Yeah. So my name's Garth. I'm the current county auditor, and so I am running for reelection. Um, and uh, and quite frankly, the shortest reason I'm running for reelection is I think I have one of the best jobs in the county. Every day I get to go to work, and all the various services associated with the auditor's office really do uh, deal directly with our neighbors and our community members and provide them an
Hmm.
opportunity to really to secure a better future, whether that's
Right.
through kind of voting and having a say in who gets elected to important positions, or through our marriage process and issuing marriage licenses. We get to be part of people's special day, um, through providing vehicle and vessel licensing so people can get to and from work and all the fun events that they want to do outside of work.
Hmm.
And then certainly with our animal services division and being able to make sure that people can live in harmony with their pets and their neighbors and enjoy just the benefits that animals bring to our everyday. So we also have document recording too, which is deals with property records and allows people to really secure their interest in property and make sure
Hmm.
that they can build wealth and build a future through property ownership.
Okay. Wonderful. And so you've been in this position since 2020, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
For the last 4 years, I've been the auditor. Prior to that, I spent 12 years as the county elections manager. So uh,
Okay.
in total, I have 24 years of experience administering elections, and 16 of that here in Snohomish County.
And what other location were you working with before that?
Uh, prior to working in Snohomish County, I was in King County.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have lots of experience with large groups of people.
Yes, large elections and certainly lots of experience with vote by mail elections
Hmm.
um, yeah. And again, it really is a pleasure to be able to administer these processes for our neighbors.
Hmm. Wonderful. And so for folks that maybe don't know what an auditor does, you had mentioned the various different kind of topics, but what is a general day look like for you?
Yeah, so I get to work and I have meetings with my management team to make sure we know what's going on for the day, what our priorities are, and then really it's figuring out ways that I can support each of the division managers to meet their goals and their mission, which again is really to serve the community. And so I may be in meetings to talk about strategies on how we handle certain issues. I could be talking to reporters about what's going on in a particular area of our office to make sure that we can get information out to residents
Hmm.
and what's happening. And then certainly I spend some time with my fellow county auditors talking about what sort of changes we need to put in place to continue to improve our processes and support
Hmm.
the important work that we do.
Awesome. And so do you live or spend time in sort of the Stilly Valley area or the Arlington area?
So I am a South County resident.
Are you? Okay.
I live in Edmonds, but certainly have lots of friends and connections
Hmm.
to the Arlington, Stillaguamish area, Stilly
Hmm.
Valley. Yeah, we I and it's interesting. It's been fun to see kind of the Arlington area grow and how it's growing. Maybe interesting is a better word. I know that
Right.
that can be a challenge if you're seeing your community kind of change.
Hmm.
But it's again, as the county auditor, you kind of see all parts of the county, and for
Right.
us, it's figuring out how can we continue to provide better service to our North County residents. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I think there's
Awesome.
some challenges there, even for the county auditor.
Right. And there's different parts and little pockets of communities throughout the county and of the state, of course, but that have sort of that uniqueness to their downtown area. And you mentioned being in Edmonds, that Edmonds downtown is this cute little like quaint area that has great shops and great things to do. And it reminds me of some similarities with Arlington's downtown as we continue to grow.
Yeah, I agree with you there. My kids, when they were younger, played AAU basketball, and we would frequently come up to Arlington. I'll admit we would come up to Arlington and get beat quite handily. But the interesting part was seeing the community and seeing the downtown area, and I know that there's a number of restaurants that have been recommended to me by my North County friends that are just wonderful.
Right, exactly. Yes. So what are some things that the auditor's office might be involved with small businesses?
So we do provide licenses to certain businesses. Most of those are not in the North County area. These are adult-oriented businesses. What some would consider kind of vice-oriented businesses, massage parlors and things like that. So from that perspective, if you're involved in that sort of business activity, you're in the unincorporated portion of the county, you might be working with the auditor's office. Otherwise, I mean, I think, businesses need vehicles in many cases. So licensing of vehicles. We do have subagents that are spread throughout the county that we have oversight responsibility for. These licensing subagents provide titling of vehicles and vessels and tabs right in the community. So we have one up in Smoky Point, and so we do have some connection there to local business as well. And I think our all of our services are kind of external customer connected, and so the better that we're able to provide service to our community, the more they can focus on their business needs and their other responsibilities to the community.
Definitely, for sure. And what is, I think a lot of people don't know sort of the inner workings of the various positions within the county or positions that are up for election. And there's a lot of, common misconceptions about things. Is there anything related to the auditor's office that you want voters to know kind of your perspective on, or something that's really important for you to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, with elections, we recognize that vote by mail has its challenges for some people, and particularly in more of our rural communities, mail delivery can take a little bit longer. And so what we've done is we've moved up our mail delivery times to make sure that there's plenty of transit time for ballots to get out to places like Darrington and Oso and Arlington. And so I hope that's being felt by people, that they're getting their ballots and feeling like they have an opportunity to get those ballots in. We also recognize that we need to make sure we have other services like ballot drop box services available to all of our county residents. And so I was excited when we were able to get a box installed out in Darrington, and we certainly have several in the Arlington area for people to use. Additionally, I think one of the interesting areas of our office that we continue to see kind of connections to our kind of more rural or urban rural boundary communities is in animal services. With more and more people moving out to kind of our that rural urban boundary, we are seeing neighbors that aren't used to living amongst livestock and chickens and other animals. And so we really serve as a resource to get neighbors talking to each other when there are issues, and then certainly stepping in when we need to make sure we're addressing things from an animal care perspective. But I think that's one of the areas we continue to see a challenge, and I know it's probably something that's seen in the community as well. Different expectations on animal care and responsible animal ownership, based on
Definitely.
kind of that background of where you're coming from.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good point, and something that we often see sort of communicated throughout our community as, so and so's horses are out, or so and so's cows are out, or there's a pig on, Highway 530 or something like that. Um, so yeah, definitely a part of our community for sure. Um, so how so my background is in social work, and a lot of our clients right now are older adults who are, trying to age independently, or folks who are struggling with various social issues, mental health, substance use, things like that, disabilities. So with that sort of increasing presence of those things, what kinds of programs exist at the auditor's office, and kind of what do you see as far as supporting those community members?
Yeah, so I think we recognize, and I'll talk about it in a couple of different areas. For elections, we recognize that, again, vote by mail can be a challenge for some voters, and if you're a voter with a disability, or if you're a voter that needs additional assistance, working through your ballot, we provide some in-person voting centers, and one of those is up in Smoky Point. And so we've been doing that for a number of years, and we'll continue to provide that service to make sure that people can cast an independent ballot. It's important.
Yeah.
The
And do you know that's at the Medallion Hotel, I believe, right?
It is.
It is. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
The other areas that we have seen a need really involve kind of communications about our recording process, and recently there have been some national concerns about property fraud, and I know that can be a concern of some of our older residents. And so here in the next couple of weeks, we're excited that we'll be launching a new tool where people will be able to sign up and get notifications if documents are recorded with their property involved or under their name. And so I think, that's continuing to figure out what sort of tools we can put in place to communicate what the auditor's office is doing and help people kind of track their own work, whether that's related to property, related to elections, related to our licensing functions. Those are tools that I think can be beneficial for everybody, but particularly some of our most vulnerable members of our community.
Definitely. And then will that be, I'm assuming, like an online sort of platform?
Yeah,
Tool?
you'll sign up online, and then you'll provide an email address, and whenever a document gets recorded with your parcel number for your property or your name, you'll get an email saying, "Hey, this document's been recorded." If you were anticipating that document coming through in our recording system, then nothing to worry about. If you weren't expecting it, then it gives you an opportunity to seek some legal counsel and kind of figure out the next steps for what you need to do to understand what was recorded, why it was recorded, and if it was fraudulent, what you can do to address that.
Awesome. That sounds like a really great sort of preventative or quick reaction to some things that can get out of hand pretty quick.
Yeah. Yep.
So, good. That's awesome. So how important is increasing voter turnout to the office of the county auditor?
Yeah, great question. So our mission in elections is twofold. One, it's to conduct fair, accountable elections. So we need to make sure that we're administering elections that people can trust, that are transparent, that document how we've handled ballots, and can be followed up by the average voter just to know that their ballot has been counted. The other part to the whole process of voting is making sure that people understand how they can participate and how the process works. And so you can't have one without the other. We have been very fortunate in the last couple of years to get the support of our county council to bring on a communications specialist. We also have an outreach specialist in our office. And so over the last year, we really have increased the amount of information we've been putting out to the public through social media and through in-person events. And in fact, we continue to work on developing partnerships with other organizations as well, figuring that people are involved and members of a whole host of organizations that they trust. And if we can get trusted information out to those organizations, they can share that information with their members. And in fact, this August, we were recognized with a national award for our partnership with the League of Women Voters here in our county.
That's wonderful. And we have been talking a lot since our forum last week about sort of voter engagement and how our community's voice is so important. In Arlington, when we had our last mayoral election, there was 35 votes between, Mayor Tolbert and Don Vanny at that time. And I try to use that as an example to folks that our community, like, that is evidence more than we could ever dream of proving that your voice really truly matters. And that even when you question that, like, well, I'm not going to vote, doesn't matter anyways, it actually really does.
Yeah. We, particularly in these odd years, a few votes can decide the difference between who gets elected and who doesn't. And we really do see that at a local level, there can be significant change. Our local leaders have the ability to influence policy, local policy, how money is spent in the community. And so you really do need to have a voice to make sure that your community is well cared for.
Definitely. And in these smaller communities, being able to, really get to know your candidates and what they're about and all of that. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that's where what you're doing here, providing an opportunity for voters of the community to connect with candidates and understand where candidates are coming from and their experience and background is so important. And so kudos to you for putting these forums on.
Definitely. Thank you. With that, you've probably been to a lot of these over the last few months or year. And probably looking forward to November. But what do people generally ask you at these forums? What are some common questions that you get?
Yeah, we do get some questions about elections, concerns, and just about the integrity of elections. I think people make a lot of kind of move to a lot of conclusions based on what they hear at a national level. And so a lot of my time is just explaining how the process works, that, we do really care for every ballot that comes back. Every signature on every envelope is checked against the signature we have on file for the voter in our database. We handle those ballots with care and make sure they get counted appropriately. And there are a number of tools that people can use to verify that their ballot has been received, like the VoteWa tool, or we even now have a new text option where you can receive a text message as well. So I think that's one of the major topics. I think people in general, they hear the auditor's office and they think finances. And so a lot of times it's just really explaining what the auditor's office does, that we have kind of a wide variety of services and are unique in that perspective in county government.
Definitely. So, and kind of along with that, then how do you sort of educate the public when there's decisions or changes or things like that that they might not understand?
So we've got a couple of methods. One is certainly using our social media tools. Having a professional communicator on our team that can put together those messages and get information out quickly is important. We also certainly have relationships with traditional media and can talk with our local papers to get information out as well. And then we're looking at our website and information that we send out, whether it's with our licensing renewal process or with our marriage applications or elections. It's really looking at those materials and kind of reading them from a resident's perspective and
Right.
making sure that they are written in plain language that can really explain to people what's going on.
For sure. I was looking at kind of your list of endorsements and people who support you, and it looks like you have a lot of great supports, which I think sort of the theme amongst our conversations in the last week or so has been, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And it looks as if that you're surrounding yourself with people who, are experts in their field and have a lot of really great insight. And then we end up benefiting from that too as community members. Is there anything sort of about sort of your endorsements or things like that that maybe set you apart from your opponent, or anything about kind of your role and how and why we should vote for you, essentially?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. First of all, when I started working in elections 24 years ago, I quickly realized that this is a political environment that
Right.
I'm operating in. And as the administrator of the process for voters, it was really important to me to take a stance of being nonpartisan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. I did that, one, for voters so that they could have confidence when the election results come out that my top priority was them and their
Mm-hmm.
ability to cast a private independent ballot that would be counted. The second reason I did that is I think it's helpful for candidates to know that they have a fair process in which they're operating as well. So when they get elected,
Mm-hmm.
there's no question as to why they were elected. It was because the voters chose them. It wasn't because the elections administrator was endorsing them or of the same party.
Right.
And then finally, for my staff and my team, I wanted to make sure that they could do their work and not have any of my actions really call
Mm-hmm.
to question the integrity of the work that they're doing. So I made that commitment early on in my career. It's not required. I know a
Mm-hmm.
number of county auditors that are affiliated with a party, and I think they do good work. But for me, it was important to be nonpartisan. So when it comes to collecting endorsements and recommendations and
Right.
garnering support, it does become a little bit more of a challenge.
Right.
And so I am pleased and really appreciative that I have broad bipartisan support from
Mm-hmm.
people on both sides of the aisle. I think they recognize that this is an administrative office that has it's not dealing with policy on a daily basis necessarily, but really executing functions for county residents, and that experience matters in this case. And so certainly honored to have the support I have from all the county council members, from our county
Mm-hmm.
executive and other electeds at the county. I do make a conscious choice to steer clear of seeking some endorsements, just because, again, it's I
Right.
want to limit my exposure and people's concerns that I have affiliations with
Mm-hmm.
one party or another, one candidate or another.
Yeah.
So I'm really cautious about that. I guess when it comes down to it, some of the endorsements that I think are most valuable for voters to consider would be the endorsements of both former county auditors. They
Mm-hmm.
know what it takes to lead in this office. They both did a great job, and to have their endorsement certainly means a lot to me. And then the endorsement of my fellow county auditors across the state. They do
Mm-hmm.
this work on a daily basis. They know what it takes. They know what knowledge is required, what skill set is required, and for them to say, we think Garth's doing a good job, means a lot. And so those are the ones that I'm certainly thankful for and appreciative to have.
Definitely. And I like that point that you make, because I think sometimes people, when they're quickly filling out their ballot, like, oh crap, it's the 6th or whatever, and I need to hurry up and do this. They might go to like the key things like endorsements or years of service or education or something like that. And you could have a super long list, but it does really matter kind of who it is and where it's coming from and why. Where's the proof in
Yeah.
that action? So That's wonderful. So anything else that you can think of that might be helpful for voters to know?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. One, I have the pleasure of serving on a number of boards and commissions, and that's one of them is the United States Elections Assistance Commission's Local Leadership Council. They choose 2 people from each state to represent the state and provide kind of feedback to the Elections Assistance Commission on needs at a local level. And I sit on the Washington State Recording Standards Commission. I'm also actively involved in our Washington State Association of County Auditors. And my involvement there and all those groups really is meant to make sure that we have a voice coming from Snohomish County on what our needs are and can influence and shape both policy, procedure, and resource kind of acquisition here at a local level. And so I think that's really important. It's something I've been very strategic about making sure that I get involved and can get appointed to those important positions. I think my reputation and my experience certainly helps with that. And then I guess the last thing I would say is just, again, I really love the work that we do, and it's something I'd love to continue to do, but I know that it really relies on voters. And so if voters think that we've been doing a good job and they like the direction that we're headed, then I'd certainly appreciate their vote in the upcoming election.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I think that it has been so helpful to hear more about what you do and what you've accomplished as well in the last 4 years, and even your career leading up to that as well. So we really, really appreciate your time and your willingness to kind of tell us a little bit more about all of that. So thank
Great.
you.
Well, yeah, thank you, Kaitlyn, and
Yeah.
everybody get up there and vote. It's important.